it's not the same because obviously it was amongst friends, and it's still throwing Jungleman in the mix, who's the biggest. I mean, at one point was the best heads-up player, and at another point probably the biggest winning player online, right? So
yes,
but then again, I think it's still somewhat hypocritical of them playing or him letting down Bilzerian, even though he is a spot on his account. I still think it's hypocritical.
This isn't even the craziest ghosting thing that's happened to Jungle. Like, if anyone wants to search like the gear up thing from 2011, like what Jungle's doing here, if we had to rank levels of infractions, I think is much less bad than what happened in Garza.
I forget that scandal. Was that the scandal where was he something similar?
Jungle and his team Quaribi were using some shell account under the name of some South American kid to play games while the kid like blogged about being a poker superstar.
Oh, gotcha.
And like, there's a lot of unclear details because his team, I don't remember his last name. That might not be pronounced correctly, but his team kept posting, like, admitting to whatever was uncovered by the community while telling other lies that basically insulted the intelligence of the poker community. And then they would just uncover those lies. And he had 4 or 5 different posts on 2+2 where he came clean and like kept admitting to lies from his previous post while posting lies for his new posts or whatever.
Sure, I remember this now. He was a full tilt pro. Well, not the main pro.
He was a red name full tilt pro, and they had a lock account post Black Friday that they were.
Yeah, I remember his name was Dog His Head, right?
Dog His Head,
something like that. Yeah.
And again, like it depends if you consider the stakes something's for to affect the severity of an infraction, which I generally don't. In which case, I really think that this is like as far down on the list of infractions go in terms of poker scandal, and it's something that is like exceptionally common and viewed pretty laxly by a lot of people in the community.
For sure. I mean, I've heard about this since I started playing poker, like back in 2006, 2007, where someone would make a final table and then they would let the pro take over at the final table.
Yeah. There were tons of stables that had like end boss, early game, mid game. Like their worst players would play the early games of tournaments. Their middle players would play the middle part of tournaments, and then they would pass off the final table to whoever the like end boss of the stable was. There's also when guys started having trouble getting action online. There's lots of big names now that are well respected that have had their own quote like multi-accounting scandals dating back on 2+2 to between 2005 and 2011 when this started becoming a big issue. There are many names that play the super high roller bowl that all got caught up in this in those eras, in that era.
Yeah, one of the so
middle school, so innocent
was was Justin Bonomo, I remember, right?
Yeah, that's another one of the names that did it a lot and did it somewhat unapologetically.
And he had his account taken away for a while, and it was just the public debacle back then.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, my view is very similar to Dan's, just like super user, and that's one of the things that people have to be careful about thinking about the holy grail of high stakes poker. Is there's a lot of issues. Angle shooting, super using, colluding. I remember when I was playing big online, I lost like 30K in like very short time, like an hour or something like that. And I was like thinking of the hands. I couldn't help thinking, could I possibly have been super usered? So I just, you have to take responsibility for your own. If you feel like there's a risk, then, don't do it. Also, I have a computer science background, but I'm not up to date with the latest. Just like, it's not impossible that somebody gets access to the random number generator, and then can predict the cards that come out on flop turn river.
Really?
I mean, I'm not up to date with the latest. I don't know. Dan, you're muted.
Yeah, I think he's trying to set it up.
So I would trust most of the current major sites only because the people winning on them are the people who make sense. Like that's generally the best way to test these things is are the people who make sense, are winning across all the sites, and they generally are in all the currently operating sites. You'll find that even the weird sites that no one really knows the screen names to publicly, like ACR and such, if you dig into who's winning on those sites, it's people that you would expect. And it's very often the same people that win on Stars and the same people that win on Party.
Yeah, that being said, there's also a threat, which is, you know, it's always
The threat's
possible.
always present. I'm just saying it becomes relatively quickly noticeable if unknown account starts crushing, and it just hasn't happened yet on any of these sites.
Right.
At the higher stage.
The era that happened to me was like literally the era. It wasn't an absolute, but there was the absolute era. So that's what kind of makes me whatever. I mean, it's just like you shouldn't play those things if you feel like there's enough risk.
Yeah, and the community uncovered those. It took the community a little bit of time, and they uncovered them. I'd say the community online that's still playing in 2020 at high stakes is more vigilant now than they were then. And there's a lot more like examining who's winning. And I would say most of the people, again, who are winning on these sites are keeping a very close watch on who else is winning and what's going on, and have felt very comfortable in these games recently.